Identify intercepts from graphs. So the x and y intercepts are pretty straightforward. The x-intercepts are where the graph crosses the x-axis, the horizontal axis, and the y-intercepts are where the graph crosses the vertical axis or the y-axis. The x-intercept is a point on the graph where the y part is 0. So if I'm looking for the x-intercept, the y part is going to be 0. So it's going to be this form, some value for x and a 0 for the y. And if I'm looking at the y-intercept, it's going to look just the opposite, a 0 for the x and some value for the y. Now note, if you do have your a point right at the origin, at the center of your graph, that point is 0, 0. It's an x and a y-intercept at the same time. So sometimes you have that. Okay, intercepts give us a variety of information. The x-intercept of a linear graph, so if you have just a straight line graph, will tell us a year where a vehicle is no longer worth any money if it depreciates at a constant rate, or when a battery's run out of power after sitting for a given amount of time. You could have a graph going like that, and it tells you at what point you've run out of power. A y-intercept could say the number of gallons of gas at the start of a trip, or the initial load on a battery in the previous example that we're talking about. So x-intercepts are also called zeros. They have another name, zeros of the equation, and that's because the values of x that make the y 0. We're looking for those usually. Here's some examples. So we're looking at this first graph and we want to figure out what the x and the y-intercepts are. These are all linear, or this one is linear example or straight lines. So we're looking for the place where it crosses, this is where it crosses the x-axis, and here's the place where it crosses the y-axis. Now, just finding them is not what we mean when we say find the x and the y-intercepts. We want you to write the actual ordered pairs. So for this one, we're going to count over -1, 2, 3, 4 in the x direction, because this is your x-axis, and then in the y direction, we're not going up or down, so it's just a 0. And that's what we expected. So our x-intercept is -4 in the x direction, 0 in the y direction. Now the one that's on the y-axis is our y-intercept, so we have y-intercept, and that is right down here. So we have 0 in the x direction and -1, -2 in the y direction. So 0, -2 for that one. Next example, I'm looking for where are the x-intercepts, so where does it cross the x-axis, and there's one place, and there's only one place, and then where does it cross the y-axis, and there's the place where that happens. And then I want to write each one out, so my x-intercept is going to be at +1, and then no moves in the y direction, so +1, 0 in the y direction. And that's what we expected from above. Let's take another look for the y-axis. It's down here, so it's 0 in the x direction and -1, -2 in the y direction. And that's our y-intercept. Now let's go back up and just double check here. We thought that our x-intercepts would have a y value of 0. And here's my two x-intercepts I've found so far. I have a -4, which is some number, and then a 0 for the y. And this x-intercept, some number, and then 0 for the y. So I'm following that pattern. And then for the y-intercept, we think there should be a value of 0 for the x and some value for the y. So 0 for the x, a number for the y, 0 for the x, a number for the y. Remember, we do have that situation of 0, 0, that would be an x and a y-intercept, but we haven't seen that yet. Okay, here's another shape graph. This one's a parabola, and we've got some x and y-intercepts, and we have a vertex named and other things too. So let's just take a look. Right now, all we want to know is what are the x-intercepts, or the zeros of the equation for this parabola, and what is the y-intercept. So the x-intercepts are here and here, and so x-intercepts, we have two of them, as we can see when we track across the x-axis, two places where our graphed shape crosses the x-axis. One of them is at -1, -2, -3, 0. And again, we have a 0 in the y part. That's what we expect for an x-intercept. And the second one is at +1, 0. So two x-intercepts, or two zeros of this equation, and they are at -3, 0 and +1, 0. So y-intercepts, we have one y-intercept. I should change my pen color. We have one y-intercept, and it's right here, and it's at -1, -2, -3, but first we go 0 in the x direction and then -3. So 0 for the x direction, -3 for the y direction. And we only have one place. If we look down the y-axis, there's only one place where our parabola crosses the y-axis, and it's here at 0, -3.